I'd like to call to order the, what day is it? March 9th meeting of the Delray Oaks Planning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Berger, Commissioner Wood. You're muted.
I see her hiding for the
Aye.
button.
Commissioner Ragsdale Cronin,
Here.
Commissioner Krieger,
Here.
Commissioner Getzelt. Here. Commissioner Jackshaw,
Here.
Vice Chair Hayworth.
Present. So we'll do Pledge of Allegiance if everybody's ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who's this for all?
Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Everybody looked over the minutes from the last meeting. Any corrections, comments?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as published.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes. Move on. Public comment. Do we have a public?
I don't think so.
Don't see one. Okay, we'll move on. Reports. Everybody looked at the building activity report? Any comments, questions?
I have one around the corner from me. It looks like it's almost finished and they're about ready to move in. So it's nice to see.
Seems like there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Karen, you were right about getting shorter though. It was last month you were saying it was gonna get you were right about it getting shorter.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of give you guys some perspective on how things are finalized and what it ends up to be. So next month it's up to her.
Nice.
No pressure. Okay. What's next? Old business, there's none. New business, there's none. So I will turn it over to City Manager John Gerton for an introduction of what we're going to be taking in here the rest of the meeting.
Sure. Well, fortunately, we have Denise and Connor here to go over our reporting requirement. We do an annual report to the state that's due by April 1st every year. Part of the report is reporting on the housing element and how we're doing meeting our RENA numbers, that type of stuff. And then the other portion of it is relative to any general plan implementation that we've done over the course of the last year. It's a requirement to submit those reports, whether we've done anything. And we haven't had a whole lot of activity the last year or two. Most other places haven't either with the pandemic. Also just the nature of the constraints that we have in our town with water issues and land constraints and everything else. But I will let Denise and Connor get into the details of that and show you all of that. And then if you all so choose at the end of the night, you can give input. And then the recommendation is to approve it to send to the city council for their input and direction, and then sending it on to the state. So with that, I'm going to be quiet. Denise, it's all for you now.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John. So members of the commission, Mr. Chair, we are pleased to report on the annual progress report that's required by HCD, Housing Community Development, and OPR, Office of Planning and Research, on an annual basis. I think many of you have either heard this before as previous or current Planning Commission members or council or members of the audience. So this will look a little familiar to you. Connor, if you can share your screen, and we have a short presentation, go over the staff report and really what this is about, what we do every year, and what progress has been made in terms of the general plan. So if we can start, we're going to talk about the report and then provide any opportunity for questions. If there's any public, open it up for public comments, and then talk about next steps. And really the whole point of this is to recommend the report to, as required to the city council to basically submit the report to HCD and OPR. Next slide. So this essentially provides the information regarding what progress has been made on your individual policies of your general plan. And it's about trying to remove, how have you done in removing your constraints to housing or in developing housing? Now, this is very different in the city of Delray Oaks as a small community, as John mentioned. We don't move very quickly, and there's not a lot of additional development area to have, but this just provides an opportunity to report. And specifically, it's only on what progress have you made on implementation of your general plan policies, and it's required under state law. And your role as planning commission is to report to the city council, as I mentioned. Thank you, Connor. Next slide. So our general plan, for those who don't know, a little bit of history, there was a full general plan update in 1988, and that's where the majority of the policies were developed. There was an update on that when the former Fort Ord property was annexed, and it was about to be annexed to the city. And so our general plan is a combination of these 1997 policies and 1988 policies and our 1997 Fort Ord policies. It's essentially a combination of that, and with that we're looking at policies that some of them are outdated, some of them are actually really current in terms of the values of the cities. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the role of today is just to review how have you implemented the last year's policies that are existing. We also want to remind you that there is a full comprehensive review of general plan policies over a series of planning commission meetings in 2016, 2017. We talked about every element. We also had adopted a housing element in December 2019 after a series of many public meetings, public hearings. And in 2019 and 2020, during these last reviews, there were a series of meetings talking about each general plan policy and what the status is. And those were conducted in May to June to 2020 during the pandemic, and also last year, March 2021. So, next slide. Our objective is just to report on the progress made in the last 2021. It's a calendar year reporting. So what has been done on implementing the general plan policies from January 21 through December 21. Focus is made on what have you done in terms of implementing these policies since the last reporting period. That's critical because we're really relying on the last general plan annual progress report that we submitted in March 2021, and we don't want to redo the wheel because there, essentially, as John mentioned, there has been little or no change. Go ahead. Our format is what you see before you on your staff report is the staff report explaining why we're doing this. There's an attachment that shows the actual annual progress report, a component of it, and then it shows the set of policies that we're reporting on. So we again reported and have done this before, and there's been no major changes since the last time. So that's the focus of our comments and our report to HCD and OPR. Go ahead. There's also a housing element progress report. What I've just been talking about is what have we done to the general plan. The housing element is an element or a component of the general plan. It actually has more current policies as was updated in December 2019, and we're currently going through an update. So it's important to also look at the status and progress in implementing our specific housing element policies. They were included in your staff report as a separate attachment, as well as all the general plan policies. They're at the end of your report. So we submit that by April 1st of every year. Again, it covers the previous calendar year. And then I'm going to turn this over to Connor just to talk about the housing element progress report because he submitted those and prepared those in the last 3 years. So Connor, on to you.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Yeah, as Denise mentioned, every year, similar to the general plan annual progress report, we submit the housing element annual progress report, which basically just informs the State Department of Housing and Community Development, any new builds, any additional items that were, or permits that were approved by the city to achieve the RHNA, which is the regional housing needs allocation. And so I'll go to the next slide, which kind of has some excerpts from the housing element that we've submitted. So as you can see, the city hasn't done much, which is absolutely okay. You know, it's basically just informs them how we're implementing the housing element policies and trying to get to our regional housing needs allocation. So as you can see, we've issued 2 non-deed restriction low income housing unit permits, which were in the forms of ADUs this past year. And you could kind of just see the other items. They were both used for the SB 35 streamlining provisions, and that informs, you know, HCD of how their state implemented program is doing within the local jurisdictions. So yeah, there's just some items here you can take a look at. This is also included in your staff report if you want a closer look. And then I'll go to the next slide. And this kind of just goes over the permits issued by the city over the past year. And as you can see, in 2021, one permit for the low-income non-deed restriction house was approved, and this past year 2 were approved, and they were both ADUs. And you know, that kind of goes back to with the city adopting that accessory dwelling unit ordinance over the past year. So you know, the city's doing a good job considering the size and the constraints that that the city of Delray Oaks faces. And I'll go over just a little bit more of this. So you can see the total units to date over the years of this 5th cycle. Denise, it's the 5th cycle, correct? We haven't entered the 6th yet. Okay, thank you. And yeah, so this bottom area just shows the total RHNA that is what is brought down by the state. I'll go to the next slide. And these are the objectives that we included in the housing element back in 2019. And every year we go and we update the state HCD on the status of the program implementation. I'll hand it back to Denise to kind of go over these as well.
Yeah, this is important. Thank you, Connor. This is important because the state wants to hear how have you been doing in your program implementation. So it's the name of the program. It's the objective that we've approved and the city has approved as part of its housing element the most recently. And what you said you were going to do and when, that's the time frame that's in the housing element, the 3rd column. And then how are we doing on implementing that? That's the 4th column, status of program implementation. We're a little bit different in this context because the city is already in its update of this 2019 housing element so that we can actually complete the 5th cycle. And the objective of that is to complete the 5th cycle housing element, get a compliant housing element from HCD, and switch from the every 4-year cycle of a new housing element to an 8-year cycle. That's the goal behind updating this year's housing element. We want to just give you a little bit of a, I guess, information that we will be having at the end of this month, having a full housing element workshop, which will include planning commission and city council. So we'll be going over these policies specifically and any updates the city may want to have to them. And with that, that is essentially the housing element annual progress report, which is again submitted by April 1st. That's the deadline. We now would suggest any questions you have are open to them. I'll open up to if there's any members of the public that are here that would like to comment. And as in previous years, the planning commission then when our recommended action is to consider, is to basically to make a motion to send this up to city council for submittal for review and then submittal to HCD and OPR per the state requirements. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, John, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll go out to the commission and look for comments. See who comes up first here. Mr. Ragsdale Cronin.
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Jackshaw.
Nope, none for me either.
Ms. Wood.
No comments.
Ms. Getzel.
I just want to thank Denise and Connor for the work. I mean, I was on the city council for 2 years when we did the housing element update, and I was also serving on AMPAG, so I'm familiar with how the RENA numbers impact and the contentious of how they're developed. And it's not an easy process, and I greatly appreciate all their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krieger.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check, make sure I'm clear because I'm making things fuzzy. Are we with the 2019 housing element update? Is that done or is that still in work? What we approved, was that it, or is there still work being done on that?
Through the chair, I'm happy to answer that question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the 2019 housing element was approved and recommended in November and December by the Planning Commission at that time to the City Council. City Council approved the housing element at 2019, and that was complete and adopted. At that point, the housing element gets sent up to HCD, and they determine whether or not it meets all the regulations. I think we mentioned this in the staff report or at different times, but because at that time there was a lawsuit threatened by Landwatch, the policies that we had originally requested and had Planning Commission had approved, which would include rezoning, were taken out at the City Council level in order to try and avoid a lawsuit. Landwatch sued anyway. So the housing element was not determined to be compliant by HCD. So they sent us a letter back saying, if you did this and this, we will make your housing element compliant. Here's what you need to do. And then we were able to get for the city 2 grants, LEAP and REAP grants, that would pay for the housing element update. And we're currently, I think we did a joint Planning Commission and City Council workshop in last June on the housing element update. City Council did a visioning statement and wanted to have us come back in March of this year for another workshop. And then the next step is to do a 5th cycle update to that housing element to ensure that all of these HCD requirements are implemented, which will also include a rezoning and for certain areas, and will also include an EIR on the housing element itself, as which was what was requested by Landwatch during the previous lawsuit that they actually did file and then they took out.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. That's, and all that a year and a half ago, some of it now, like, was all getting kind of fuzzy. Thank you. That's
Absolutely. I can understand why.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was clear in my head what exactly we were. So thank you.
No problem.
And so Denise, that lawsuit's not in effect any longer?
No, actually, the lawsuit was rescinded through the work of the previous city manager and Alex Larker, our city attorney, and they worked with Landwatch and the previous city clerk. We had gone as far as filed the full administrative record, thousands and thousands of pages, and after that, the Landwatch decided not to pursue it, which means that the CEQA document that was done at that time, which was the challenge, remains in effect, which is a real good win for the city on that one, if you will.
Great, thank you. And since there really isn't any changes to it, I guess there's not much to talk about unless somebody's got something new. I guess we'll go out to public comment. I don't know if we had any public show up in the meantime. I don't see anybody. Karen, no? Okay. So this is an action item, John?
Yes, it is. It would be the recommendation to take it to the city council for their approval to then send it to the state.
Okay. Do I have?
I'd like to I'd like to, excuse me for interrupting, but I'd like to move this on to the city council as
I
submitted.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, I guess it passes.
Vice Chair Hayworth, can we do
Yes.
a roll call?
Yes, please.
Roll call vote. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Commissioner Wood,
Aye.
Commissioner Ragsdale Cronin,
Aye.
Commissioner Krieger,
Aye.
Commissioner Getzelt,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackshaw,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hayworth.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Left. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for all your work. It's really appreciated. How you slog through all of that stuff. I don't get it.
I think we know it by heart by now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Announcements by planning commissioners. Anybody have anything they want to comment on or say, or?
Only thing I have to say is I see a lot of houses are selling, at least on my side. I hope it's doing well on your side. I hate to see the big expense on these houses. It sort of scares me because new families make it tough to get in, but I'm glad to see that they are selling.
Here at the condos, they're not staying on the market. Sometimes they're not even making MLS, and they've gone up $100,000+ in a year. There's one coming on, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, no stairs, but neighbors upstairs and downstairs, supposedly coming on for 610.
Wow.
And one just sold 3 stories down, 2 flights down from the parking, sold for $595. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,053 square feet. It's crazy.
Well, if I can interject again, having grown up here in Delray Oaks and rode my bike all over the place at probably 8, 9, 10 years old, we have 3 new families with young ones bouncing around at this end of the street, and it's really nice to see it.
That is good.
Nice to see young families moving in.
I don't know how they afford it.
Yeah.
Mr. Ragsdale Cronin.
Yeah, thanks Denise for all your hard work. We appreciate it. A couple of things I would like to bring up is I think we should probably formalize Mike becoming the chair or putting that as an agenda item for next meeting and selecting a new vice chair. So we got all our ducks lined up.
Made me spill my water.
Rule wise, so to speak. I think that would be something we should probably plunk on the next agenda. And other than that, I think I'm good for right now.
Thank you. Gary.
No, nothing. I think, good idea, Bill. And, no, I agree with that. We got lots of new kids moving in over here. It's nice. And I agree. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's nice to see them showing up. All we gotta do is get the cars slow down.
Thank you. Denise, my walking buddy.
Hello, how's it going? I have a comment. The Parks Rec, I guess we're a committee, and there's a survey that's gone out. So if everyone can fill that out, that would be fantastic, and pass it on. It's been posted, I know, on Nextdoor, and I think it's on is it on the city website, Karen?
Mine emailed to me.
It is, yeah, I did a mass email also.
Okay,
So website, Nextdoor, Facebook.
the whole, yeah, so there's a lot of money coming into the park and a lot of great ideas, and so it'd be really good to hear what everyone wants and new ideas.
I'll try and see if I can get the HOA management company to send it out to all the HOA owners in the
Oh, that'd be
mass
fantastic.
email blast.
Great.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
it'll work, but I'll try and see if I can get them to do that.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
And John, you and I discussed in-person meetings again. When are we going to do that? Because I'm noticing this is making me look really old.
Really?
Amazing.
I'll-
We are.
I'll send my wife over. She can teach you how to do the filters like she
Okay.
did with me.
Yeah.
Oh, I can
There's
use
an
that too.
enhancement filter, John, that you can put on. It makes you look
Yeah.
years younger.
Hey,
That's
Mike,
right.
thanks for making me feel way better. You're worried about it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
So
Karen,
actually,
go ahead.
if I can just add a couple things. So Denise mentioned that we have the joint planning commission and city council meeting on the 30th. So please make yourselves available and attend that. That'll be important for talking about the housing element, fifth cycle and sixth cycle also, right, Denise? Just kind of give them an update on the RENA numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then also I've already talked with Chair Hayworth, and I also mentioned to George last night or the other day, we've taken council members out for tours of the Fort Ord property. I think it's good for everybody to actually kind of get a feel for what's out there and how it's all situated and what you can see out there and
Nice.
what you can or can't see from the Oaks. Just kind of then get an idea of what's happening out there in terms of the homeless camps and some of the other things out there. It's a little eye-opening for people when they get out there and see it for the first time. So Karen is going to be working with Ron to schedule. We can do it probably in pairs or maybe groups of 3. So we'll be reaching out to all of you to try and work it into your schedule so that you can get out and see the property and see the asset that we have out there. So we'll be contacting you sometime next week, right, Karen?
Nice.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. Karen, I neglected to write down the date of the next meeting.
You did. It's April 13th.
Okay, that's not a Friday. That's good. Next meeting, we'll adjourn this meeting, and our next meeting will be April 13th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Stop.